So I thought it would be cool to go over a mechanic for DCS counter picking and picking who comes in next for your crew. And I wanted to use two examples from week 3 from DCS to go over and how I think teams could improve their pick theory. Not that I'm a genius at this or anything, but just a topic that I found interesting. We're going to go over Team Tomlet versus Team Vlomflex and Team Quark versus Team Perry and compare and contrast how they did these. So they started pretty strong picks. Usually with your first round, you don't want to send out your weakest person because if they get like randomly 3-0'd, that's going to set you really far behind. As you can see, both teams, they have they sent out Podgy. He ended up underperforming, but Podgy's their strongest besides Vlone himself. And then the other team sent out Hyarta and Cal, and that ended up being, that's sort of what you want to see from your round one. Even if you're on the team that loses, that's obviously the best possible outcome. What happens with Team Tom is right here, they have a reset where both teams have now lost one player, and it's like an even crew battle again. So they both have 9 stocks left. And so where I think that Team Vlomflex messed up is that right here, they should have sent Vlomflex in my opinion. What they do instead is they just kind of send in their last 2 other players and then save Vlone for the end. And then, they end up losing. Not awful, but they end up losing it. And I can't blame Team Vlomflex for losing this one because they had 2 subs and they were missing Sketch and Bowtie. And no offense to Captain E or Hausa, but I think Sketch and Bowtie are too proven to be better players than Captain E and Hausa. So, but no offense to anyone around, and I understand why Team Vlomflex ended up losing this. And even in the hypothetical scenario I'm going to present to you, it's still a stretch to say that they could win this. But what I think they should have done, or sent out Vlomflex, and sort of gone for what you go for in the first round again, and hope that Vlone can beat Tom. And in this scenario, let's say theoretically Vlone beats Tom, and I think that's not unreasonable either. If you look at their SDD performances, generally Vlomflex finishes over Tom in most brackets. So you could say that he's probably the better player, though they are close in skill. So let's say Vlone beats Tom and he goes 3-2. And then in this scenario, Team Tom is put in a harder situation where they either have to pick between Frauded or Hawk against Vlomflex, the best player on their team. So maybe instead of sending out Frauded next, they send out Hawk. And let's say theoretically Hawk takes they go 1 for 1. So we get Vlone versus Hawk 1 for 1. And then they're able to pick between these 2 players who has a better matchup. Because what ends up happening in this situation is Vlone sends out Captain E, who plays Falco, into PT and just gets devastated. And in my humble opinion, that's a bad matchup and they shouldn't have done that. And then they send in Hausa, and Hausa ends up actually taking 2 for 2. He does really well there. But then Hausa's worst matchup is definitely Frauded. There's no way he was ever going to take a stock off of Frauded if Frauded comes in. And so, of course, Frauded comes in and he 1-0s Hausa. So, in this theoretical scenario where they throw Vlone in here, they could have sent Hausa in against Hawk next and maybe have a 3-2. Hausa comes in with 3 stocks to 2 of Hawks. And it's a stretch, but you have a better chance of Hausa being able to take those 2 stocks in that scenario. And then you have Frauded versus Captain E in the end, which is a very good matchup for Falco. In that scenario, Vlone takes more control of the picks and counter picks going on. Where the strategy they ended up going with was just kind of throw everyone out there, however many stocks you can take, okay, and then we'll just hope that Vlone has the hero run in the end. And I think that, I know that's a very common strategy to have your anchor be your best player and just try and, make him have to carry as little as possible. But I think there's better, more creative ways that you can use your stronger players. And so we're going to look at how Team Perry played to exemplify that. So, Team Perry Master, here's the huge difference here. So, if we were following the same kind of counterpick strategy that Vlone did in his match, more than likely Craig would go in here. Let's say that, you know, maybe Mr. Monday just styles on him. Who knows? Maybe Craig just goes out and they don't even have to send in Cork here. But by putting Perry Master in, they guarantee that the next player to come in is either Cork or Drewish. 100% they have no option except to send in these two players. Because if they don't, Perry Master, I don't know this Vision guy, but let's say it wasn't his sub. If Perry Master versus Bowtie? Yeah, if it was Perry Master versus Bowtie, Perry Master more than likely is either going to 3-1 or 3-0 him. Force Cork to come out, and this is Cork's worst performance so far in, I mean, not worst in retro, like compared to who he's playing against, but he takes the least amount of stocks in this crew battle compared to all of the other crew battle appearances he's had. He only takes 2. And right now, Cork is averaging 5 per appearance. So this is huge. So they send out Perry, he loses 1 stock to Mr. Monday, and then he takes 1 from Cork, and then Cork now has to play against James. So they're able to eliminate Cork, and they are able to save Craig till the end. They don't, like, James ends up having this insane run anyway, where he MVPs the run. But he's only able to do that because they set him up in a winning scenario against Cork. Because they were able to, like, get him out, and they knew he was coming out, they didn't waste Craig. They take a stock off beforehand, so James doesn't have to 3-0 him. He's able to take 2 stocks and go into the next battles with all 3 of his stocks. And then they end up winning. Craig only has to take 1 stock off of Drewish. And most people would say that Drewish is a much better player than Craig. No offense to Craig. And they're able to force this scenario where Craig has 3 stocks to play with to beat 1 of Drewish's. And it ends up working out for them. So they're able to clutch it out over Team Cork in what my opinion is playing a much better pick game with their team. So yeah, just consider that you should think of counterpicking sort of like a chess game. You, as the team captain, you have to know each player on your team's abilities and the characters that they're good and bad against. Every time you send in a player, you should be trying to get them the best possible matchup that you can. Not just thinking like, okay, here's our least talented player, here's our second least talented player, and then, oh, they only took 1 stock each. I guess I'll just try and take 8 stocks, you know? Like, Vlone, I guess I'll just try and 3-1-2 people in a row, which didn't end up happening. I think that's, just something to chew on when you're trying to decide who to send in next for your next crew battle. I hope you guys found this interesting.